Good afternoon. The first item of business this afternoon is portfolio questions. The portfolio on this occasion is education and skills. There's quite a bit of interest in supplementaries, so the usual appeal for brevity in questions and responses. And I call question number 1, Tess White.
Officer, to ask the Scottish Government, in light of the publication of its revised guidance on supporting transgender pupils in schools, whether it can guarantee that effective immediately single-sex spaces, including toilets and changing rooms, have been made available to all girls during school hours.
Cabinet Secretary Jenny Goruth.
Under the Education Scotland Act 1980, education authorities have the statutory responsibility for the delivery of education. The Scottish Government, therefore, does not carry the legal responsibility for the management of schools or their facilities, including the provision of toilets and changing rooms. This is a matter for education authorities. It is the role of the Scottish Government to provide non-statutory guidance to education authorities and schools in relation to the legal requirements and associated national policy to inform their work. The guidance published last week fulfils that role. For the avoidance of doubt, the updated guidance reflects the Supreme Court judgment and states that separate toilet facilities for boys and girls must be provided in schools and that the facilities required to be made available on the basis of biological sex.
Tess White.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. Parents have informed me that in secondary schools in Angus, girls' toilets are being locked during the school day, denying girls their legal right to single-sex spaces. And this, as the Cabinet Secretary has outlined just now, is illegal. Can the Cabinet Secretary tell us what immediate steps the Scottish Government is taking to ensure that every girl in every school has unrestricted access to single-sex toilets as required by the law? Thank you.
Cabinet Secretary.
I thank the member for the point she has raised. I'm not cited on the specifics in relation to Angus Council, but I will take that matter back to my officials in relation to toilets being locked during the school day. More broadly, though, of course, the member will be aware of the guidance that we published last week in relation to the Supreme Court ruling. The purpose of that guidance was to bring clarity to the teaching profession and, of course, to our young people in our schools, and that was our response to the Supreme Court ruling. But I'm more than happy to take away the specific issue the member has raised today.
Supplementary, Rona Mackay.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I welcome the engagement undertaken by the Scottish Government with parents and carers, education representatives, LGBT organisations and women's organisations to develop the recent guidance. Can the Cabinet Secretary provide more details on how this will ensure support continues for trans children in schools?
Cabinet Secretary.
So, Presiding Officer, the purpose of the guidance is to support our councils and schools in their support to transgender pupils. We know that these are really complex matters and that education authorities and schools will continue to consider the well-being of all of their pupils, including transgender pupils, as they navigate the support that is required from them in school. The guidance offers advice on legal, policy and practical matters, and it draws together signposting of support for parents and carers and for young people themselves. It recognises that these highly personal decisions can be challenging for young people and their families and for councils and for schools to navigate. The guidance seeks to provide support to those working in our schools as they navigate this complex issue for all.
Thank you. Question 2, Richard Leonard.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and can I welcome the Minister to his new position? To ask the Scottish Government what action it is taking to address the reported jobs and cuts crisis in further and higher education.
Minister Ben McPherson.
Thank the member for the warm welcome and express to him that the Scottish Government values and works to support all those who work in further and higher education in our country, and have valued opportunities to express this since coming into post less than a month ago. Our last budget allowed the SFC to increase revenue funding to colleges by 2.6% and funding to universities by 3.3%. However, we recognise the pressures facing both sectors, which have been set out clearly by both Audit Scotland and the Scottish Funding Council. And ministerial colleagues and I will continue to work collaboratively with both sectors and Parliament on those challenges.
Richard Leonard.
Can I thank the Minister for his reply? The Alloa campus of Forth Valley College remains under threat. The principal told me this week, without intervention, the college is forecasting to run out of cash by December 2026 and would become insolvent. In a written answer last week, the Minister told me that the closure of the Alloa campus was ultimately an operational matter for the college. If it isn't the job of the Minister for Further Education to defend access to further education in one of our most deprived communities, I don't know what his job is. So will he give an assurance to Parliament and to the people of Clackmannanshire this afternoon that the Alloa campus will not be downgraded and it will not be closed?
Minister.
I thank the member for his engagement on this matter in terms of the Alloa campus, and I've valued questions from across the chamber, including from Keith Brown last week, advocating on behalf of the campus. As has been set out, including in the Audit Scotland report this week, we recognise that colleges are anchor bodies within communities, and the Alloa campus plays an important role, of course, in Clackmannanshire in terms of helping young people and other people to fulfil their potential, to build their skills and to contribute fully. The Scottish Government is engaged in this issue as members would expect. Ministers are being updated regularly on the matter, and the Scottish Funding Council, crucially, is engaged with Forth Valley College on the Alloa campus, and we will continue to update Parliament as is appropriate, and will continue our engagement proactively with the Scottish Funding Council.
Supplementary, Miles Briggs.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. The Audit Scotland report is not only a wake-up call for ministers, it should act as an alarm bell to them. Scotland's colleges face a dire financial future under this government. So after a decade long of dire public warnings from colleges and others about their future, what future funding models and new funding models are the Scottish Government going to now bring forward to help save our colleges?
Minister.
As we've discussed collectively in Parliament in the last week following the Audit Scotland report, and prior to that with regard to the Scottish Funding Council reports, we have discussed at length the importance of colleges, as I mentioned earlier, as anchor institutions, the role that they play in enhancing skills, in creating fairer societies and providing locally accessible learning facilities. So I having, as well as appreciated my engagement with Parliament so far, I have really been welcome I've really welcomed to have the positive engagement that I've had with Colleges Scotland as the body representing colleges, and I had a really good visit to Kelvin College in Glasgow earlier this week. There is engagement that we need to have with the college sector on sustainable funding, and we collectively are looking forward to having that further engagement in the weeks and months ahead, and I look forward to my next meeting with Colleges Scotland on how we can bring everyone around the table in a collective, with a collective interest to make sure that we support our colleges and that we provide sustainable funding into the future.
Minister, we're going to need a little bit more brevity with the responses. I call question 3, Jackie Dunbar.
To ask the Scottish Government what discussions the Education Secretary has had with the ministerial colleagues regarding how to support people in Aberdeen to gain the skills and qualifications needed for the energy transition to ensure that North East Scotland has a world-leading workforce.
Minister Ben McPherson.
The Secretary maintains regular communication with Cabinet colleagues on matters of importance to the Government, including supporting people in Aberdeen and elsewhere to gain the skills for the energy transition in the North East, which is a key priority. And we will continue to work with regional partners to help ensure the workforce is equipped for the opportunities ahead. There is already targeted funding in place to support skills for the energy transition in recognition of high demand, and I and colleagues will continue to engage with all partners, including the member, in the shared endeavour.
Jackie Dunbar.
Minister, for the answer. It's hugely important that we harness the potential of our young people and workers needed for the energy transition and assist in facilitating pathways to success. Does the Minister share my view that cross-sector joint working is crucial in achieving this objective?
Minister.
We are committed to boosting skills among Scotland's young people, especially in vital sectors like the energy transition. While we pursue long-term reform of post-school education and skills, we recognise that there's an urgent need to meet current demands. That's why we're providing targeted funding to colleges in 25-26 for an offshore wind skills programme. This will create training hubs to build the skilled workforce needed for our offshore wind ambitions and support upskilling and reskilling that will aid energy transition. The funding enables new courses, strengthens college staff capacity and invests in facilities across strategically important regions for the offshore wind industry. And in addition, and alongside the UK Government, we are providing up to £2 million of funding to Forth Valley College to support workers at Grangemouth transition into these key sectors.
Okay, question 4, Douglas Ross.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government for what reasons it considers the percentage of students earning an A, B or C in higher history fluctuated by 27.6% between 2023 and 2025.
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, there are always year-on-year fluctuations in pass rate in both directions for individual courses. The SQA has worked in partnership with history teachers to develop and deliver an enhanced and well-received Understanding Standards programme. Following the 13% point dip last year, I was pleased to see that the pass rate improved this year by 14.6%. The SQA Quality Assured Awarding process, including grade boundary checks, confirmed the assessments worked as intended and that the national standard was consistently applied. Candidates can be confident that their results in both years reflect the hard work and achievement.
Douglas Ross.
I'm sorry, I don't think candidates can be confident. The SQA's internal review of the 2024 higher history exam blamed the students, yet we now see the exam results back up to the pre-2024 levels. Does the Cabinet Secretary not accept that this means that the SQA's review was wrong, a review she wholeheartedly supported? And does she understand, while students who got lower than expected grades in 2024 feel a sense of injustice and that their marks were not sound?
Cabinet Secretary.
I thank Mr Ross for his interest in this. We have discussed it at length, both in front of his committee, but I also want to put on the record and reassure him that I pressed this issue with previous management at the SQA on no less than 3 occasions. And of course, there has been an independent report into the processes that were applied. I think it is worthwhile recounting, though, that pass rates do vary year on year. There are other examples that I could cite today. For example, Nat5 graphic communications pass rate fell from 74.2% in 23 to 64.8% in 24, and it increased back up to 76.7% in 2025. There will always be variations. There were issues in relation to higher history last year, I accept that, and of course the SQA took a number of different actions in that regard, not least in terms of the support to the profession, but also additional support for teachers of higher history and markers being put in place. But the markers report was also reviewed and updated. The markers report is really important because it looks at the national standard and it also identifies strengths and weaknesses in terms of performance. Markers were given the form early this year, so it could be used by all markers undertaking coursework and question paper marking in 2025. So to my mind, it is a matter of public record that, of course, the SQA carried out this independent review that looked into the matters in detail at that time.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. I'm going to have a brief supplementary from Paul McLennan.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. While the opposition looked to discredit the dedication of Scotland students with persistent negativity of Scotland schools, this year's SQA results showed record levels of achievement. Can the Cabinet Secretary speak further on overall performance of Scotland schools, notably in relation to the narrowing of the poverty-related attainment gap?
And briefly, Cabinet Secretary.
Someone from my left muttering shameful, but I do thank the member for highlighting the achievements of our young people in Scotland this year, which have been remarkable. A record number of vocational and technical qualifications were achieved, and pass rates for Nat4, Nat5 higher and advanced higher were up compared to last year. The poverty-related attainment gap has also narrowed for Nat5 higher and advanced higher when compared to last year. We've also had 95.7% of school leavers in initial positive destinations in 2024, our second highest level ever. So, of course, Presiding Officer, there is more work to do, particularly in relation to the attainment gap, but I certainly welcome the progress that we've seen this year in relation to our exam results.
Question 5, Jamie Halker-Jones.
To ask the Scottish Government what challenges are faced by those delivering education across the Highlands and Islands.
Minister Natalie Dawn-Ennis.
Statutory responsibility for delivering education lies with local authorities, and we recognise the unique challenges faced in the Highlands and Islands. We're actively engaged with councils and stakeholders in the region. I have met the Highlands and Islands Enterprise to discuss rural childcare accessibility. The Cabinet Secretary and ministerial colleagues have also visited to hear directly from communities. The forthcoming National Islands Plan and Rural Delivery Plan will include education as a strategic priority. These plans aim to ensure communities have a genuine voice in decisions affecting local education provision and ultimately improve outcomes for learners.
Jamie Halker-Jones.
In January last year, my Conservative colleague, Councillor Helen Crawford, presented a motion to the Highland Council calling on it to declare a school state emergency based on the fact that it has the poorest school estate in Scotland. The Council's SNP-led administration refused to do so. More than a third of schools of Highland schools are now classed as being in a state of disrepair, with 53 primaries and 11 secondaries falling below acceptable standards. Given this clear neglect of rural education, can the Minister explain why, after 18 years of government, the SNP is still failing to deliver safe and efficient learning environments for Highland pupils?
Minister.
First point out is it is the statutory responsibility of local authorities to manage their school estate. Now, we're aware that some schools in the Highland and Murray council areas are in an unsatisfactory condition. Two of the deconditioned schools in the region, Forest and Nairn academies, are being replaced through the LEAP. The other two deconditioned schools, Charleston and Alves, have plans by each council. And we will continue working with COSLA, with local authorities and with Scottish Futures Trust to explore how we can deliver further improvements.
Thank you. With a reminder that the substantive questions around education access in the Highlands and Islands, I call supplementary Jamie Hepburn.
Thank you, President Officer. Can the Minister set out how Scottish Government schemes, for example, such as the preference waiver payment, assist in overcoming any challenges in education associated with geographical location?
Minister.
The Scottish Government recognises the challenges, as said, posed by geographical location in delivering education, and particularly in those remote and rural areas. The preference waiver payment is an incentive to attract newly qualified teachers to more remote and rural local authorities who experience difficulties in securing probationers. Currently, the PWP is £6,000 per annum for primary teachers and £8,000 per annum for secondary teachers, and it's paid in addition to the probationer's salary. And it's complemented by the Remote Schools Allowance and targeted funding to protect teacher numbers. These measures all form part of a broader strategy, including the forthcoming National Islands Plan and Rural Delivery Plan that I have already mentioned and I'm struggling to get out. Together, these initiatives support equitable access to high-quality education across all parts of Scotland.
Okay, question 6, Douglas Lumsden.
To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to recent reports of a rise in recorded bullying incidents in schools.
Cabinet Secretary.
Officer, I've made it clear that I expect all incidents of bullying to be recorded, and that with more rigorous recording, the number of recorded incidents will likely increase. This reflects a crucial part of our ongoing commitment to transparency, ensuring that every allegation is taken seriously and that all children and young people are properly supported. To support schools, we published updated national anti-bullying guidance in November of last year, which includes guidance on recording and monitoring. We also continue to fully fund Respect Me, Scotland's anti-bullying service, to build confidence and capacity to address bullying effectively.
Douglas Lumsden.
Presiding Officer, with over 64,000 bullying incidents logged in just 5 years and growing reports of violence against teachers, it's clear that violence and intimidation are becoming routine in Scotland's schools. So does the Cabinet Secretary agree with the First Minister's claim yesterday that the SNP government have not failed in education when it's evident that it's failing to protect both pupils and staff from harm?
Cabinet Secretary.
Member for his question. He may be interested in an HMI report which published in early 2023, which looked at the quantum of bullying incidents that have been recorded and noted that only 2/3 of our schools recorded effectively bullying incidents. So we know there are a number of schools at the current time who are not recording bullying incidents. I've been very clear in my time as Education Secretary that we want all schools to record all incidents and allegations. We need to have that clear national picture, and in doing so I accept and recognise that may lead to an increase in relation to the number of incidents that are recorded, but that is important to help inform our support to our schools, and of course that has been primarily from an education perspective driven through the National Action Plan on Behaviour and Relationships, which has been co-produced with local authorities and with our teaching trade unions, which has been hugely important to have that cooperative partnership working on this really important issue in our schools.
Brief supplementary, Colin Beattie.
Bullying is categorically unacceptable in Scotland's schools and our society. Can the Cabinet Secretary provide details on engagement with teachers and parents who interact with our young people day in, day out in shaping guidance on responding to challenging behaviour?
Briefly, Cabinet Secretary.
With parents and teachers on a regular basis this morning, I met with the head teacher panel, and of course earlier this week, Presiding Officer, I was in Orkney meeting with parents and carers and listening to some of their concerns at the current time. We published the guidance on fostering a positive, inclusive and safe school environment to help support our school staff in relation to challenging behaviour, and as I've set out previously, the Scottish Advisory Group on Relationships and Behaviour in Schools includes representatives from our teaching unions and also from Connect, our parent organisation, which has been hugely important to providing that oversight and necessary experience in the development of the guidance.
Question 7, James Dornan.
Further widening access to university education for people in the most disadvantaged communities.
Minister Ben McPherson.
From the most deprived areas entering university is up 37% since this Scottish Government established the Commission on Widening Access. Latest UCAS stats also show record numbers of young Scots from deprived areas accepted to study at university in 2025. But we know there is more to do. We will continue to work with the sectors and the Commissioner for Fair Access to make further progress on fair access to higher education, and this includes our ongoing exploration of data sharing options to better support disadvantaged individuals and communities.
James Dornan.
I thank the Minister for that answer. Can he set out how the support available for mature and care experienced students to access and succeed in university compares with that in other UK nations? And what assessment the Scottish Government has made of the effectiveness of these measures in reducing inequalities in higher education?
Minister.
Thank the member for raising these important matters. The Scottish Government continues to provide unparalleled support to care experienced students in the form of a non-means tested bursary of £9,000, the first of its kind in the UK. All of Scotland's universities are also committed to guaranteeing a university place to care experienced applicants who meet minimum entry requirements. And I am proud that we have seen an increase in care experienced students attending university every year since 2016. Support for mature learners is also a priority, and we continue to fund the Scottish Wider Access Programme, which supports thousands of learners to return to higher education each year.
Supplementary, Pam Duncan-Clancy.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. While entry has improved, completion is still a problem. The most recent figures show retention of 86.1% for students from the most deprived communities versus 92.1% for the least deprived. A gap now 6 percentage points, up from 4.5 points 10 years ago. Does the Minister agree that getting into university or college isn't enough? We must support students to stay and complete. And if so, how does he think cuts to discretionary funds and to student mental health support impact widening access?
Minister.
The member is right that we need to support people through their journey, and that is why, in terms of provision through the Scottish loan system, for example, through the support that SAS provides, is significant and makes an important difference for people through their journey. I appreciate, as I said in my first answer, that there is more work to do. We have made a lot of progress since 2016, and I would be pleased to engage with the member on these points as collectively we try to not just enhance the opportunities of people going to university, but completing their journey and succeeding thereafter.
And very briefly, Jamie Halker-Jones.
Latest figures show that student numbers for the University of Highlands Islands dropped by 6,000. UHI has faced a number of challenges, including mergers, staff cuts, and of course funding issues, which have plagued the sector in the last 18 years. What impact does the Minister think this will have on the disadvantaged and often remote communities across my Highlands and Islands region?
Minister.
I have welcomed engagement on UHI since coming into post, including from the member and members behind him on those benches. The provision that is provided across the Highlands and Islands, which of course is a wide geographical area, is extremely important for those and for the country more widely. I think it's important to recognise that, of course, when students go to university in Scotland, they go into the institution from a position of having their fees paid for by the government, by the taxpayer, and that helps people to access their opportunities. And yes, there is a situation as set out by the SFC in terms of the sustainable funding of the sector, and I talked earlier about how we are engaged in that and engaged with University of Scotland.
Thank you. Question 8, Martin Whitfield.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what assessment it has made of the impact on youth work provision of its budget decisions in light of the most recent Youth Think Scotland survey indicating the majority of young people accessing youth work do so through voluntary sector.
Mr Ben McPherson.
As Parliament knows from previous contributions, I highly value youth work and I am looking at ways to provide further support. At present, the Scottish Government fund youth work provision in a variety of ways, including most prominently through local authority block grants, giving councils significant autonomy to provide youth work in their area.
Martin Whitfield.
Grateful to the Minister for his response, and I am aware that he does genuinely value youth work. And when I launched my Youth Work Scotland bill at the Citadel Youth Centre in Leith, I saw firsthand how transformative voluntary provision can be, and indeed firsthand how the Minister takes interest in that place. But YouthLink's latest survey shows the majority of young people accessing youth work do it through these voluntary organisations, and many are struggling to meet rising demand. So can I ask, what are your specific plans to strengthen both voluntary and statutory provision so that no young person misses out?
Minister.
I'm looking forward to engaging with the youth work sector in this role and will be doing so in the weeks ahead. The member speaks about the power of youth work as preventative spending and helping young people to realise their their potential, which of course allows them to add more to society and to the economy. And I believe in that deeply. And I see it in my local constituency through organisations like the Citadel Youth Centre. And I have forgiven the member for not inviting me to the launch in my constituency in Leith of his bill. However, while not dismissing the considerations around primary legislation, I think most importantly we need to consider together about the need in communities now, and I'm really engaged in that. I think there is a question of, we have provided a lot of additional resource, over 1.1 billion in 25-26, a real terms increase of 5.5% to local authorities. And without disrespecting the Verity House Agreement, I think we need to consider, are local authorities investing in youth work enough, and what other ways can we provide additional youth work support where there is need and demand, given the current circumstances?
I can squeeze in a very, very brief supplementary, Bill Kidd.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Just to say, is there anything else the Minister can say about the role of local authorities in allocating resources for youth work?
As briefly as possible, Minister.
I do recognise that local authorities have a significant resource and a responsibility to invest in youth work. We are investing through other avenues where we can, like, for example, Youth Scotland and Youth Link, through the community-based National Youth Work Organisations, investing £2 million since 2023, and I will continue to consider how central government, working with local government, while respecting the Verity House Agreement, can support the very, very important contribution that youth work makes to our communities.
Thank you. That concludes portfolio questions. There will be a brief pause before we move to the next item to allow front benches to change.